Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat Podcast. This, of course, is the January transfer special. I've got three very special guests with me to talk about Tottenham's business so far in the January transfer window. Of course, Tottenham Hotspur have already announced our first signing of the window. Timo Werner on an initial loan with an option to buy in the summer from RB Leipzig. And we are just about to get our second signing of this transfer window over the line. And from what we're hearing at the moment, Spurs want even more. This could be the perfect window come the 1st of Feb, 11 p.m. And Postecoglou, of course, wants a stronger squad to get us over the line, to get Champions League football at the end of the season. And I tell you what, it feels really, really exciting right now. I cannot wait to get into this. We've got back with us David Harris of the Irish Hotspur on YouTube. Dave, lovely to have you here. How are you?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Tottenham, 6 points off top. Good start to the January transfer window. And I'd say the FA Cup in our own hands with City at home, beat them. Who knows what could happen? I mean, I'm absolutely fantastic. No better time to be alive.
Dave, it feels extremely positive right now because you just mentioned it there. 6 points off top, 1 point away from top four. And Postecoglou, started this rebuild in the summer. We had a really good window in the summer. We're having a good window so far. Drăgușin is just about to get over the line. The official announcement is imminent. It might even be this evening. It may even be first thing tomorrow morning. It feels good. I've got that real good feeling right now. Are you feeling the same? Because like you've even mentioned the FA Cup there, we went really, really strong in the FA Cup. It feels good, doesn't it? The mood is really good amongst the fan base.
No, look, it's done a complete 180 from where it was last season. I think the reason why the mood is so high and spirits are so high right now is because we're doing way better than what anyone expected coming into this season. Where we were as a club, as a squad, losing your star striker just before the season. You've changed your goalkeeper from a guy that was there for 11 years to a new guy coming in. New centre-back partnership right throughout the spine of the team was basically new. So, and I think Ange Postecoglou has managed to deal with that very, very quickly. The players have settled in very quickly, took to what he's asked them to do. They're committed and they absolutely love playing under him. And also, any new signing that comes in here, Ange is on board with Paratici. They're singing off the same hymn sheet, which also I think we're seeing reflected on the football pitch when these new signings coming in, they're slotting in straight away. Look, I think we've had a very good start to this window. Coming into this window, I said I wanted to strengthen right throughout the spine. I wanted a centre-back, I wanted a centre midfielder, and I wanted someone to compete with Richarlison. Now, look, I do have sort of when it comes to Werner coming in, I think the structure of the deal is absolutely fantastic, but I do think it's a bit of a gamble in that regard. Drăgușin, I'm very happy with. We needed a centre-back. It's long overdue. I think it's a very clever sign. And when you look at Romero and Van de Ven, when we brought them in here, they were they had potential, but they could have went on to become world class, and they've become that player at Tottenham, Romero and Van de Ven. And I think Drăgușin is exactly straight out of that sort of playbook where you buy a player with a lot of potential to become world class. And for me, I'm very excited about the signings we've made, but we can't stop here. We've a bit more to do. We've got a golden opportunity, 6 points off top, FA Cup in our own hands. This opportunity will not come around in January for another while. So it's up to us now to seize the opportunity and take it. And so far, we're making great strides towards that.
Absolutely. Well said. We've also got channel regular Craig Dearman back with us. But I should have said we are live on X, we're live on Facebook and live on YouTube. Please do hit that subscribe button if you don't subscribe to the YouTube channel as yet. And also give us your thoughts on the transfer window so far and how you are feeling right now as a Tottenham Hotspur fan. Craig, let's come to you. That's the exact question I'm going to ask you. How are you feeling as a Spurs fan? Because Ange Postecoglou wanted business done early. It looks like we are just about to get our second signing of this January transfer window over the line. Ange Postecoglou must be absolutely ecstatic. He must be absolutely really pleased with what's going on at the football club right now. Of course, most of the fans, I say most, some people, some of the comments I've seen today, what more do you want in the January transfer window? The board are obviously backing Ange. Ange is going out, finding his own players, and he is identifying the exact personalities and the quality of players that he wants within this squad. It feels really different. And that's probably the reason why I feel so excited, because everything feels really different to what we've known before. How are you feeling right now?
exactly that, different. It just does feel different. We know from the past, how many times have you said, Chris, Mauricio Pochettino didn't get a signing for 518 days? Well, that's changed drastically. I mean, these two players coming in are first team or challenging for the first team, a starting spot in the first team. So it does exactly feel that to me. It just feels different. And we've made so many mistakes in the past, and we have been critical of the club and the board of not backing managers in the past. But I think personally, you have to give the board, the club, the structure, Daniel Levy, Scott Munn, all the team around them. They're really doing good stuff at the moment. And for me, the best signing that Daniel Levy's ever made, and he's not a manager, it's Fabio Paratici, because since he's come in, he's had a couple of duds, but on the whole, the signings have been better rather than worse. So I just think, you know, with all us calling for him, well, a lot of the fan base calling for him to go, and when he came, you know, when all that stuff came out last year about the Juventus stuff and the fines and you know, the embargoes on him, Daniel Levy stood by him, and he's obviously seen something in him. And for me, he's been incredibly intrinsically important in making this club better over the last year. Certainly since Conte left, it was just gone from strength to strength under Ange, and this is just the beginning. I think that's the most exciting thing for me.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
This is only the second transfer window, and you could see improvements in players. You can see improvements in the squad, and that's what it's all about for me. We've had good starting 11s, 2016, 17 sort of era. That starting 11, I remember, not on here because we weren't doing the shows back then, but there was something online I saw, like, what players from the Arsenal team would you have in the Spurs starting 11? And there was none. I think, you know, wind back 2 years, there was a few more Arsenal players would have been creeping in, if we was all honest. But now you can see that changing again, and our first 11, not only our first 11, but perhaps at the moment, first 14, 15 are pushing for a place in that starting 11, which is what we've badly needed for years. You know, when we've had injuries, suspensions, we haven't been able to replace those players, and we can now, or we're getting there. There's a long way to go, but I just wonder if we're slightly ahead, probably, of where anybody at the club thought we would be. They've seen that. They thought Champions League is a real possibility now, and that's what we're going to be going for. And obviously taking the FA Cup seriously, because we can't afford to put out a weakened team, if you like, against Man City. As Dave said, quite rightly says, it's there. If we beat City, we're right up there with a chance. So, you know, it's all good at the moment. It's almost like, I know what it's like. We're all waiting for something to go drastically wrong, but it just feels different. It just feels different now. And the place is buzzing. You know, the ground is jumping. Having gone there to watch that first proper game under Ange, I went to a friendly, but that was the first game I went to Friday. Although it was a poor game at the end, it is like a nightclub, and you'll know that, Chris, because you've been to every game. So it's just great to see smiles on faces, and that's what I noticed on Friday: the smiles on the fans' faces, the cameras out, the phones out, people taking pictures and videos, which was sorely lacking towards the end of the Conte era. So it's just all good at the moment, and I'm just really excited about what's going to come.
Dave, let's come to you on the criticism of the board in recent seasons, particularly since Mauricio Pochettino was sacked, because many see that as a bad decision. Jose Mourinho was sacked 6 days before a cup final. We appointed Nuno Espirito Santo, Antonio Conte, etc. The board have been heavily criticised, including yourself whenever you've come on this channel. What has been the key changes at the football club since Ange Postecoglou has come in? Because not only have we made a lot of changes within the Tottenham Hotspur squad, a lot of changes have been made off the pitch in terms of recruitment, in terms of coaching, in terms of people in charge of recruitment and so on. What have you made of the key changes behind the scenes. You know, the likes of Johan Lang coming in, Fabio Pratici still working at the football club because, of course, he knows his stuff. He's still working at the football club as a consultant. But what do you think the major change has been?
Look, for me, I think the major change has been Fabio Paratici coming in here. And I think, you know, what we're seeing from Ange, I think Ange has elevated the work that Paratici has done. However, I do think this increments of changes were happening when Paratici arrived here. Look, anyone that watches me knows that, you know, I was sort of backing Paratici very early on. I liked a lot of the signings that he was bringing in here. And one thing that he's done, he's purposely lowered the average age of the squad by getting out a lot of the old stale sort of players, attitudes and stuff like that. And he's brought in fresh, young, hungry players that are ready to hit the ground running. Now, look, I know it's taken a while for people to really see the changes that Paratici was trying to make, but they have to remember, you know, he has to come in here and still operate under the way that Daniel Levy and the club asks, the way they like to do their business model. So with the way we like to do the business model, it was always going to take time for teams to sort of change or to see the work that Paratici was doing. But for me, he's been the biggest influence behind the scenes. You know, he seems to have got the trust of Daniel Levy. You know, Paratici hasn't made excuses for not getting anything done. He goes and gets it done regardless. Whereas with Steve Hitchen, I felt like there was always an excuse. Oh, you know, we just didn't have enough money. We were priced out, this, that, and the other. With Paratici, even if we don't have the money in the kitty, and we've seen deals structured like this, he'll bring them in on loan with a promise to pay them in the following transfer window, which helps us get a lot more business done than maybe what we would because of the cash that we have available. He's changed the payment structure for all the academy prospects behind the scenes. You know, before it was keep them on low wages and sort of put the onus on them to earn it, but it wasn't producing players into that first team or the amount of first team or the amount of players we should be pushing through. He's changed the whole payment structure, got a lot of our top talents to sign on the dotted line, whereas before they were leaving and going to other clubs across Europe, like the likes of Noni Madueke and people like that who back their ability. So he's changed that, and that's why there's a lot of buzz and excitement around the under-21s because of the talent, because of some of the players that he's brought in and the fact that they're committed to Tottenham. And then he's cleared out a lot of the deadwood, a lot of the riffraff that were on high wages, that is showing a lot of these younger guys a pathway. And then what we're seeing, every transfer window he gets, the more he adds to it, the better it's becoming. He came here with a vision, you know, and yes, people say, oh, but he keeps going back to Juventus. But, you know, the thing is, he brought Drăgușin to Juve, he brought Bentancur, he brought Cowlin, he brought Romero, I brought all them guys to Juve. They've sort of sold them on, didn't think they were good enough. We've been the beneficiaries of that, and he has a vision. He's identified a lot of these players to be the guys over the next sort of decade, and he's brought them all here at once. And what we're slowly starting to develop is a squad that a bit like under Pochettino, when he brought through a lot of the kids, a lot of the academy prospects and stuff like that, young, hungry, that has a chance to build together. Under Poch, they were so close to bringing us to the promised land in all competitions. We never quite got over the line. Now I think we're building a squad that is capable to get us back there. And I do think Ange will be the difference because he has the experience and know-how. I think he'll be able to get us over the line. Whereas with Pochettino, Kane, Son and all them, it was all their first time together. And I think that maybe nervousness or a bit of inexperience maybe cost us from getting over the line. But I do think we're also learning lessons from the past. We're not just like Craig was saying, in years gone by, we've had a very good 11, but there's been a massive drop-off. We now realize the importance of a squad in modern-day football with the amount of games they're asked to play, the frequency of the games they're asked to play. It's important that we get a full squad together. And Paratici has changed so much for this football club. He's been the guy with the vision. But look, fairness to Daniel Levy, you know, he's backed them. He's backed that vision. Paratici has come in. He's shown them that he can put us on the right path. And credit to Daniel Levy, you know, he stuck with him. He could have sacked him when all that pressure was on Paratici. You know, he's a con, get him out the club. How can he do that? You know, even when he got the ban, he still kept him in an advisory role. So that should show how important Paratici is to this, to where Spurs are going. Also, if you look at director of football, we still don't have a director of football. Johan Lang, he's got a different title altogether. So that space is still open there if and when Paratici's ban is up. But look, Paratici's been able to bring everybody on the same page. You're seeing Ange Postecoglou get signings that he wants in Werner, Johnson, but Ange is also trusting Paratici signings that he's bringing in here that he's identified. And look, credit to the board, credit to the club, and they stuck by Paratici through hard times, and we're starting to reap the benefits of it now.
I'm smiling, Dave, because I can tell when someone is excited, they don't stop for breath. Yeah. I love it.
Look, that's just me. Everyone says, you need 3 days to die, but I can't,
Also joining us, of course, is channel regular Josh Hughes, of course, broadcast journalist and sports social media executive with the Daily Mail. Josh, lovely to have you with us. How are you?
Yeah, good. Sorry I'm late. Travel back. It's not that far away playing in White City, 5-a-side with work, but the journey was just a nightmare. So that's why I'm quite red-faced.
Well, thanks for joining us, Josh.
Hey.
Josh, let's get straight into it. Of course, in the last 24 hours, Spurs announced our first signing of the summer transfer window. We spoke at length a couple of days ago about the possible signing of Timo Werner. It has now been confirmed. He said, I've joined a big club. I'm here to win titles. The manager straight away gave me the feeling I needed to join the club, and the way the team plays fits me perfectly. Josh, give me your thoughts on Timo Werner, because in my opinion, this is a very clever signing from Spurs. Of course, it is an initial loan until the summer, and then Spurs do have the option to buy him permanently for around 17 million euros.
Yeah, you can't really lose in this deal. It's one of those deals that you've got a player first and foremost. I think the thing that stands out rather than the reputation, take that all away. It's actually just the application, the mindset. It's, we spoke the other day about Ange Postecoglou does these kind of Zoom calls with players. He almost gives them like an interview. He needs to test their mentality is up to scratch. He wants mentality monsters at Tottenham. When you look at the recent signings we've made, they are all that. So what happens is you've got a player who has had a lot of stick for his time in England. I think Chelsea fans look back fondly on him as a player, or did until he joined Spurs, but as one that just wasn't kind of good enough, although he did win the Champions League. I think what we've got is a player that we know how good he can be. He's a player that has all of the attributes that could make a very, very potent finish, a very successful forward player in the Premier League. For me, there's always been that one thing where it's like, okay, here's his potential. He's never quite hit it. Maybe this is the move that he needs to do that, where, backs are against the walls a little bit when it comes to people rating him or not rating him. And I think he feels he has a point to prove. He wants to go to the Euros. So he's come to the club and he feels that he can really help kick us on. And obviously, and the club feel he can really help us kick on. So for me, it's one of those that if it doesn't go well, okay, it's 6 months, we can send him on his way, and there's no obligation there. But if it's a success, we're looking at around about just over 14.5 million pounds to buy a player permanently who could potentially transform our season. And, I think one of the big worries for me, it's the only worry I have really, is his reputation for being offside quite a lot. And I think we have enough of that with Sonny. But if he can find, the rhythm with these new players, and it looks like, everyone's welcomed him really well. And I think that's one thing that you can say about this group of players. Every bit of social media you see from the club, these look like a together group. These look like a friendly group. These look like a team that really, will welcome in players that join and want them to be part of this family and part of this big adventure that we're all going on. I just think I can't wait to see him, wearing the 16 shirt and, hopefully scoring a goal against Man United, because I'm sure he'll be straight in the team.
Craig, let's come to you on Timo Werner, because at the weekend, there were lots of rumours going around. It came out of nowhere, if I'm honest. And a lot of Spurs fans were going, what on earth are we doing? Who on earth are we signing? Why are we signing him? But this does feel like a very clever sign. And I must admit, I felt the same thing. And then when you think about it more, and it reminds me of when we appointed Ange, because there were a lot of doubters in the summer when Ange Postecoglou was just about to be appointed. Everyone was saying, who is this guy? We've gone for the cheap option. We haven't gone for our first choice, second choice, third choice, and so on. There was so much criticism. And it seems the same with Timo Werner. But the more you think about the signing, and the more you think about what he can offer to the football club, it does seem a very good move from the football club in terms of, it being a loan. We're not, giving a lot of money away. We've had our fingers burnt before with big signings like Tanguy Ndombele. It don't necessarily always work out when you pay big, for a player. This seems like a very sensible signing because, as Josh said, if it works out, it's a very, very cheap signing in the summer.
100%. Yeah, it's what I said the other night. It just seems to me to be a sensible signing. And as you said, Tanguy Ndombele, look how that worked out. Even Giovanni Lo Celso, I know there's a few good games, but, one of our top signings, monetary wise. I can't say they've been monumental successes. So, what I'd like to say, I think I'm right in saying this, the last Spurs player that was signed in January to actually play in January was Gedson Fernandes back in 2020. So that tells you something, that we've always left the business to the last minute. And the fact that we've gone in early and it looks like Werner's going to play some part Sunday, you'd hope. It does speak volumes about how the club's changing. So that's good. For me, 27 years old, kind of at your football peak around 27, 28, I've always thought. You got to remember when he was at Chelsea, he wasn't managed by Frank Lampard, certainly a majority of the time, I think. So, Frank Lampard, well, not the best manager I've ever seen. Perhaps, and like Mo Salah, but he was at Chelsea, didn't work out, but he found the right manager in Klopp. And that's the key for me. Has Werner found the right manager in Ange Postecoglou? If he has, then we could have a little gem on our hands. I'd like to think I'm a glass half full kind of guy with signings. Give him a chance. I know we always have that Craig's moan of the week, which is a little bit tongue in cheek.
You can't moan about anything now, Craig. Come on.
I can't, there's nothing to moan about, and that's why that particular segment won't be making an appearance. But it's Timo Werner, as I said before, I love players with pace, and he's got it in abundance. His dribbles into the box are right up there wherever he's played, and that's how Ange plays. Take on players on the outside, into the box, low crosses. And I think, if he can sort out his end product, he'll bang a few goals in. Just looking here, we all know about him: pace, energy, versatility. At Stuttgart, he had 103 appearances, scored 14 goals. Leipzig, 213 appearances, 113 goals. Chelsea, 80 appearances, 23 goals. For Germany, 57 appearances and 24 goals. That's not massively bad stats as far as I'm concerned for a versatile forward. He's not a centre forward, remember. He's good for injuries as well, or he has been so far. He only missed 13 games when he was at Chelsea due to injury. 56 played in the Premier League. 10 goals, 9 assists. Passing stats are very good, and the ball carrying into the box, as I say, was brilliant. Shooting statistics need work, but Ange will work with him to improve that. And as you mentioned, the offsides is possibly an issue, but you've got to be in the right. If he's offside 5 times and he scores 1 and he's onside 1 of those times, then I'll take that any day of the week.
Dave, let's come to you on Timo Werner. What Timo Werner do you think we're going to get? Do you think he's going to play as a centre forward? Do you think he's going to play on the left? Do you think he's going to play on the right? And what's going to be different from Chelsea to Tottenham?
Look, I look at the Timo Werner signing and I liken it to the way Postecoglou used Dazon Maeda at sort of Celtic. Very quick, workhorse, will work in the press and stuff like that. And he used them on the wings or up front. He's very sort of versatile. Ange basically used them, especially off the bench, to reinvigorate that press, which is absolutely important to what we do. Pressing the ball high up, turning it over. It's basically Ange Postecoglou's form of defense, by doing it in the opposition half. And Timo Werner will definitely give us that, whether he starts or whether it's off the bench. I think that press, it's really dropped off from where it was at the first 10 games when we had everybody fit, available, and at it. I think in recent games that press has dropped off and teams are finding it very easy to play through. I don't think Postecoglou is happy in that regard. But look, I do think Timo Werner is a bit of a gamble by Tottenham Hotspur. I think, with the questions around it, even the question you asked me and, listening to the two guys there as well, it's all ifs and buts when it comes to Timo Werner. He hasn't been that player he was when he was first at Leipzig.
But what's the gamble, Dave?
Look, I think the gamble is where we are now. We're 6 points off top. If you put yourself in a title race, that'll automatically give you Champions League, which is what most fans want anyway. And then also you've got the FA Cup against Man City. For me, we lost the most prolific striker in the world. And that's our biggest problem up front, is we're not prolific enough. You've got Brennan Johnson, hit and miss. Richarlison, hit and miss. Brian Gill, when he came off the bench the other day, hit and miss as well. Does some good stuff, but then also does some bad stuff. For me, I think we needed someone that was a bit more prolific. And I would have liked to seen us go after that position with a lot more gusto. Someone that's sort of known for scoring goals. But look, there is the chance. Ange Postecoglou, look what he's done with other players. He's managed to get a song out with Richarlison where others didn't. So there is a possibility that Ange Postecoglou could breed that confidence into him, because that's what a goal scorer mainly needs. Yes, he needs all the attributes, but it's confidence. That's the biggest thing. And if Ange Postecoglou can give him that, you might get the Timo Werner that was at Leipzig. But it's a big if, Look, I do like the way the deal is structured. The onus is on the player to come in here, perform, earn that contract, more or less, right? He's got the Euros at the end of the summer as well. So there's everything on the table for Timo Werner to gain, and I do think you'll get a hungry Timo Werner. But again, is he going to be prolific enough to bring this club where I would like it to go? Maybe challenge for a title this season sneakily. I'm not quite so sure, and in that regard, I do think it's a huge gamble, because he's not guaranteed goals.
When you say prolific, though, Dave, is it about his goal-scoring record that you don't like? Is it about the clips that you've seen about him missing chances? Because I don't think Ange Postecoglou cares less about who scores the goals. It is about team performance. Obviously, it is about winning. I don't know whether Timo Werner has been brought in to, be our top goal scorer of the season. He's been brought in to work very hard for the team, and his assist record is exceptional.
No, look, I take all that on board, right? He's a player you can use right across the front three. However, what we need is if Richarlison isn't finding the back of the net in that game, we need someone else to come in and do it. I'm just not sure Werner is that sort of guy. I think you're entering a situation like Arsenal are in, where they've got Gabriel Jesus and Enquiries. None of them are firing, and the manager doesn't know who to select. I think we could very easily fall into that situation with a Richarlison and a Werner as your two options if he doesn't come in here and hit the ground running. Postecoglou's just lucky that he's got a fail-safe in Son if need. When he comes back, he can play him through the middle, and he will bag you a couple of goals. But look, like I said, we had a world-class striker. My whole lifetime supporting Spurs, we've always had great strikers at this football club. Sometimes a couple of them at once, And I don't know whether that's just me sort of being greedy, but I've always had one, and I want one now. I think that's all you're missing off this team, off that front line, is a Harry Kane. I think Harry Kane left a year too early. Should never have left. He should have given Postecoglou the opportunity, because if we had Harry Kane right now, we'd be sitting top of that league and everyone would be talking about us potentially in with a shot to win the title. Look, Ange, I know he likes selfless players. I know he likes players that work hard and stuff like that. But I think one thing that's majorly overlooked is when he walked into Celtic, he got rid of Gakamakis, sent him out to the MLS because he wasn't prolific enough, and bought in Furuhashi, who was bagging him 30-odd goals a season. He needs a striker like that at Tottenham for this project to be in full effect. And believe me, when we get it, you'll be sitting there celebrating 4 or 5-0 wins, not getting over the line.
Josh, let's come to you. I think it's fair to say that when you look at any Ange Postecoglou side, it's not about stars. He's already said this as well. That it's not about stars in a team. It's about people working hard for one another and obviously winning and creating a great atmosphere and that winning feeling. Nicholas writes here, you won't pick up a Harry Kane-like signing in January, though. Werner is a clever signing with little risk. Where do you stand on the Timo Werner signing? Because low risk, of course, until the end of the season. If it works out, and what I really wanted to ask is, what's your definition of the signing working out for us to activate, signing him on a permanent basis in the summer? What would be successful for you?
Well, he's got to have an impact and do something that we don't already have. He's got to give us something different. And for me, I've ended up starting a bit of a debate amongst the comments between a couple of people about Son and Richarlison. I forgot to mention Richarlison, who's always offside as well. We've got to have a player that, rather than us struggling to close out games when we're 1-0 up, because I think we can all admit we start games really, really well, but we seem to, as much as I love Son and I've got time for Richarlison as well. They're the two players that we're looking at and trying to get something at in terms of closing a game out, and we're not really doing it the way we should and the way that I think that our play warrants and deserves. So what we're going to need is that extra player, that extra firepower, someone who, if Son and Richarlison, are making those runs, someone that can drop in and take the ball in space, someone that can make an extra option. Basically, essentially, he needs to be that third man in that attack that gives us something that we don't already have. Kulusevski, I think, sometimes slows down attacks. I think he's a good player, but he's not, someone that's going to get that second goal, that third goal. And I think that Werner has all the attributes to do that. And I think that what it gives us as well is in a position where perhaps, Kulusevski can now take up the 10, perhaps. We could end up playing Richarlison, Son and Werner, because he can play across the front three. We can mix it up with Brennan Johnson as well. I think it just gives us options now. It just gives us something that we don't have, So rather than the defenders of the opposition knowing Son's going to make that run in behind, we've got two players that can make that run now. For me, I don't think it's right or fair to put figures on it. And I think it's, circumstances are that, I don't want to say a number of, okay, he's got to get 10 goals. I want him to have that impact, give us something we don't have. And hopefully at the end of the season, that could mean an FA Cup. That could mean, getting back into the Champions League as a minimum. That's what I see as success. If he comes in and we can all say at the end of the season, wow, 14.5 million, what a bargain. This is a deal we'll be talking about for years to come. It might not work out that way, but I think if we're looking at this at the end of the season and we're saying, wow, what an incredible bit of business that was, then that's the answer, really. I think it just gives us something different.
I tell you what, I've said this a couple of times in the last couple of days. If Timo Werner can be half as good as our last German striker at Tottenham Hotspur, then we are in for some very, very special times. Now, Timo Werner took part in his first training session today. Before the session, Ange Postecoglou said, "I just want to welcome Timo to the group. Wish you all of the best from everyone here." From my perspective, we talk about family a lot. Part of our process is that people come in. I think we've made them feel comfortable on and off the field. And I think that he can help us because he's here for his career. He's here to help us as well. So it's important that we try and make him feel comfortable. So welcome, mate. Craig, let's come to you on our head coach, Ange Postecoglou, because, we've already mentioned it. He has these Zoom calls with potential signings. He wants to know about their personality. He wants to, get their feeling for their hunger for the football club. And it just seems that this makes the difference. And these players are absolutely loving talking to the manager, having Zoom calls with the manager. And he just seems to get these players to sign for us. And they come running to sign him for Tottenham Hotspur at the moment.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? And it's that human touch that he's got that our last perhaps two managers or three managers didn't have. He's basically building the squad to win the Premier League, as he said. And it's an ongoing thing. It's early days, as I say, but that's what he wants to do. He doesn't see any reason why we can't win the Premier League next year. That's what he'll probably be thinking. Not saying we will, by the way, but that's what he'll be thinking. He didn't come here to lose, essentially. It's really interesting, the Zoom calls and the talking to individual players, because Maddison turned around and said, it was chatting with Postecoglou that made him come to the club. Obviously, Drăgușin was all questioning his loyalty, his integrity. Perhaps last night when we heard Bayern, we thought that was it. It was game over. I certainly thought that. But if it's believed, if you believe the press, he snubbed a lot more money at Bayern to keep his word and join Tottenham Hotspur and play for Ange.
It's not only the press, Craig. Drăgușin's agent come out and said that Bayern Munich offered him more money and he kept to his word because he spoke to Postecoglou and he chose Spurs. So that was from the agent direct.
Absolutely. And his agent does like to talk. That could be an issue in a few years' time, I'm sure. But for now, we'll just see how it plays out. But and that human touch. I haven't heard any mumblings of any players that are disappointed. Perhaps Højbjerg, but he's been very professional about it. But he's not playing. He was used to be playing the last 2 or 3 seasons every game, and suddenly he's not playing. And obviously Dyer is in the same boat. And my word, if we can somehow get Eric Dyer to Bayern Munich and get some money for him, I mean, he's not going to be playing under Ange, is he? We all know that. Eric Dyer gets a lot of stick. I'm sure we've all given him stick on this show, but he's been at the club 10 years, so a lot of managers have seen a lot in him. I haven't got any hard feelings towards Eric Dyer. He's just not the type of player to play in this system, So I do hope he gets the respect he deserves from that regard, that he's shown the loyalty to the club, but he's just not good enough in this system. So, but. For the Bayern Munich fans, I did chuckle to myself. That Bayern and football handle on Twitter, winding everybody up last night, like he did when Kane went, and then to see him this morning, oh my God, that was so brilliant, because you think you're getting Drăgușin and Eric Dyer walks through the door. It just tickled me, it really did tickle me, but. Ange is, he almost feels like that saviour we've been after. And you could argue we got lucky with him, but I don't care. He was on the list. If he was on the list, they obviously have been looking at him. They know what he's capable of. And he's proved loads of people wrong. And I think, hopefully, you're going to be here for many, many years. And I'm not even going to mention the T word, Chris. I'll leave the T word to you, talking about the T's that are coming. I'm not even going to say the T word. So, but I think he could be the man that gives us at least 1 or 2. I'm not even going to go mad and say 10 or 12. I nearly said the T word. I'll leave that to you, Chris. But yeah, I can see him coming, though. I can.
It's funny how you should mention those reports, because the amount of reports I saw this morning saying that Bayern Munich left shocked and stunned, expecting that Drăgușin was just going to sign for them and snub Tottenham after accepting personal terms. But before we do come on to Drăgușin, Dave, let's come to you. Let's talk a little bit about Eric Dyer, because Craig mentioned Eric Dyer there. It just seems, again, fantastic business if this can be done, because of course Eric Dyer is out of contract at the end of the season. It's pretty obvious. And Postecoglou, he doesn't fit into his system. He hasn't really wanted to play him since the start of the season, since pre-season. He was forced into it really because of that Chelsea game. Played a couple of games, and in the last press conference, Ange paused and turned around and said that he's not really that bothered whether Dyer goes out the door this window with Ben Davies now injured. How do you feel about Eric Dyer going out the door? Because it just seems mad again that Spurs can get a fee for him when, of course, they will receive nothing in the summer if he leaves.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Did we not pay only like 5 million for him in the first place? So I think we're like recouping what we paid way back then. But look, when it comes to Eric Dyer, I think time has come. Time came for me a long time ago to move him on. I'm just glad that we're finally sorting out this situation, and getting him gone. Look, it's clear that him and Ange don't see eye to eye. I mean, Ange was ready to let him go in the summer. I think it was Dyer's option to sort of stay around here for the last couple of months to see whether he could get in the team or not. But look, for me, I can understand why Ange doesn't want to use him. Every other manager has shown a lot of trust in Eric Dyer, but ultimately he's let them down. He just hasn't been good enough. He's had multiple bites at the cherry. He's had it at centre midfield and at centre back, and he's just not good enough. And for me, look, I don't want to sit here and slate on the poor lad. I think he gets enough slack, mainly by me during watch-alongs and everything else anyway when he plays. But it's just time to part ways. He's not good enough for Tottenham anymore. We're going in a complete different direction. So, look, please go to Bayern Munich, and I wish him the best of luck.
How do you think Bayern Munich fans will feel about that, Dave, getting Eric Dyer instead of Radu Drăgușin?
Oh, they'll be absolutely gutted. Absolutely gutted. You know, that's two things we've got over them now. We've got the Audi Cup and we've got and we've got Drăgușin now. So I'm absolutely buzzing with that. Look, Bayern Munich have been a thorn in our side for the last two transfer windows. They took our star man last summer, and then this summer they tried to. Because look, I've no doubt they tried to play on Tottenham with them tying Eric Dyer down. I think that Spurs were sort of sitting back waiting for Eric Dyer to go. We bring in Drăgușin, happy days, and they tried to sneak Drăgușin under the radar, but it didn't happen. Look, Eric Dyer, if he goes out there, he's not going to play much anyway. You know, they've got the late Upamecano and Kim Min-jae all ahead of him. So, you know, he's going to play a little to no part. So I think they'll be absolutely gutted. They will be gutted when they see him. You know, he will cost them goals if he plays in that back line. Look, I'm just delighted to get rid of him, to be honest. He's been one that's on high wages. He's been hard to get rid of. And now's the time when we can finally move on.
Dave, can I ask you a quick question? Sorry, Chris. Dave, can I ask you a quick question on, you brought up Harry Kane earlier about him should have stayed another year. Do you think there's a tiny part of Harry Kane, as much as he's enjoying Germany and scoring loads of goals, which we knew he would do you think there's a tiny part of him that's looking at Tottenham now thinking, I wish I'd stayed another year and been part of that? Or do you think he doesn't regret at all moving to Germany?
No, look, I think there would be a part of him that look back on it now and said, you know what, I regret not giving this up. And a go. I think he looks at the style of play, the opportunities that are falling to some of the players. He'd be on 20 goals right now in this team easily. And he'd be on course to break the Premier League record, which he really wants. So I think him moving out to Bayern, he'll get a lot of adulation out there, but around Europe, I don't think he'll get as much respect as he would playing in the Premier League. Look, now he's going to pick up a Bundesliga at the end of the year, potentially a Champions League. I'm not sure how far Bayern will go in that. So he'll probably be delighted he gets his trophy, but I do think there's a part of him maybe kicking himself. I think he'd also sit there and question, why couldn't Spurs do that when I was there? I could have maybe helped them sort of do this sooner. I hung around for it long enough. So, look, I think part of Harry Kane would be looking at it going, maybe I should have stayed. And I think Ange Postecoglou would be looking at it, especially with some of the sitters we're missing, going, I wish we could have kept Harry Kane. And I also think part of the club would be looking at it going, do you know what? Maybe we should have tried to keep Harry Kane around here for another year.
I think to add to that, I think Harry Kane probably thought as well, why did I stay when Nuno Espirito Santo was appointed? So, you could look at it that side as well. Josh, let's come to you because, of course, Spurs are about to announce the second signing of the January transfer window. Medical completed today, so the official announcement is pretty much imminent. It could be this evening, it could be tomorrow morning. 30 million euros plus 5 million euros add-ons. Jed Spence joining Genoa on loan with an option to buy, which is a very, very interesting deal. Drăgușin will earn 3 million euros salary per season. The deal will be until 2029. Josh, what do you make of this signing?
Well, there was a complete and utter meltdown about this deal yesterday. I think people jumping the gun a little bit. I mean, I put a tweet out saying, as much as I'm not a fan and I'm publicly not a fan of Daniel Levy, you've got to give him credit. You've got to give anyone who was involved in this deal credit. It looks like a Paratici deal at the face of it, considering, the history and the links and everything. But it's really exciting. I mean, this is a guy who is was chart topping in a lot of the key areas in Serie A as a defender. I think the thing that's so scary is the guy is 21 years old. He can be included and registered in our list of under 21s, which is great for the homegrown and overseas quotas. This is a guy that speaks perfect English. I watched a video of him last night speaking English. His English is perfect, which means that, yes, okay, he's played in a back three predominantly for Genoa, and he's played in a very different system to what we play at Spurs. And there might be question marks asked of, okay, well, can you throw him straight in against Man United? We may not need to if Romero is back. But it's one of those that at least he can communicate well. He knows a number of the guys there. He knows Bentancur. He knows Kulusevski. I'm sure he knows Romero as well. I think in terms of settling into the club, that's not going to be an issue for him one bit. And clearly, you know, Spurs have shown their ambition and how much we want him. I can't remember Spurs having a window where we acted so quickly, you know, in January. And what this gives us now is, you know, solidity that we haven't had before. Okay, yeah, he's not kicked a ball, so I want to be kind of cautious because I don't want to say, okay, he's going to be absolutely brilliant. And then, you know, he comes into the team and he struggles, right? But all the signs are positive, and our record of signing players from Serie A in January alone is really positive, let alone just since Paratici has come in. I have full faith this is going to be another really good signing. I'm not expecting him to be a starter straight away, but my God, what a relief it is knowing that when, you know, things hit the fan and things get tough and we have injuries like we've had and we have suspensions like we've had, we're not calling on the cavalry of Eric Dyer. You know, we're going to be relying and turning to one of the hottest young prospects in Europe, you know, and someone that is a full Romania international, will be, bar any injuries, playing every minute of Romania's Euro 2024 campaign. And a guy that, you know, came through the ranks at Juventus. This is a guy that was wanted by Napoli and Bayern Munich. I think that speaks volumes. So I think, yeah, I mean, it's just great that Ange Postecoglou is having this impact where we're able to, for probably the first time I can remember, beat some of these big clubs to these types of players. I mean, Bayern Munich basically can control the German media if they want to. They're of the same stature of a Real Madrid and Barcelona, where, you know, whatever they want to do, they do it to even, you know, probably the second biggest club in Germany, in Dortmund. They just play with them for fun. And the fact that they wanted to come in and try and do the same thing, and everyone got their, you know, everyone kind of freaked out from a Spurs perspective and from a Bayern perspective. Everyone got cocky and arrogant, as they always do. Yeah, it's just so satisfying. I think satisfying is probably the word that best describes it. I'm just excited.
Josh, you sound excited. It's great to hear and great to see. How did your work colleagues at the Daily Mail react to this news that it turned Bayern Munich down and chose Spurs? Was it a bit of a you know, were they surprised?
Do you know what? I don't think there's actually that much kind of shock because of what's going on with Spurs and kind of how things are this season and with Postecoglou. I think everyone's pretty with it with Postecoglou. Everyone's kind of, people that don't rate Spurs are like, actually, you know what? I've got to give credit to Spurs. I've got to give credit to Ange. He's, you know, the amount of people in work, out of work, that have said positive things about Ange. You know, the only negative thing I've ever heard is from Arsenal fans who are really, really, really riled up by the fact that he always says mate. And I think that really, that winds them up. And I love it for that. But to be honest, I don't think there's much surprise. I think the more of the reaction was probably me saying, what a time to be alive. I don't have to deal with Eric Dyer anymore. And we're signing two players of quality early in a window. I think there was probably more eye rolls that, oh, here he goes again, than there was about the signing. But you know what? It's just really exciting, isn't it? And I will never apologize for being excited at Spurs, doing the right thing and acting quickly, because you know we never really have this. So yeah, I think that the thing that kind of best describes it is everything seems to be moving in the right direction. Just as a club, you know, fans are on board with the players, on board with the manager, you know, the board is on board with the manager. Everything kind of just intertwining a little bit and coming together in a way that, you know, this just really, really helps with the confidence and the feel-good factor at the club, because off the back of 2 wins against Bournemouth and Burnley, which certainly weren't vintage, I think they were really poor performances, but we pulled through. We're adding quality, and we've been crying out for that. We needed a centre-back. We needed another attacking player. I think, you know what, what it really screams is that, you know, we don't want to get carried away with being 6 points off top. But what it tells me is that there is a belief top to bottom at the football club that this 6 point gap is not just, oh yeah, we're just about in it, but we're not really in it. I think they truly believe that they are. So they're going for it. If you can mathematically do it, why not? And I think that's what we're doing. And the whole thing is just really exciting.
Craig, before I get your thoughts on Radu Drăgușin, he's about to become our 4th Romanian player in Premier League history. Can you name the other 3?
Oh, no, probably can't. You've always put me on the spot.
we signed 2 players after the 1994 World Cup. Yeah, Popescu and Dumitrescu.
Here, who's the 4th one then?
Chiriches.
Oh, is he? Was he Romanian? Was he?
Yeah.
That's how much he stuck. That's how much he stuck in my head. God, Jesus, that was the bail money, wasn't it? My word. Yeah.
Anyway, Craig, your thoughts on the signing of Radu Drăgușin, because this again seems to be Ange Postecoglou masterclass again, talking to the player and getting the player fully on board to then reject Bayern Munich.
100%. Yeah, I mean, just to put it in perspective, you got £60 million or whatever it was in Ndombele, and to give kudos to Paratici and Levy. That's even if we take up the option on Werner, you could get Werner, Drăgușin, Udogie, Solomon, and still have money left over for the price of one Ndombele. So that's how much our transfers have improved. I mean, must admit, I've never watched the guy play. I've watched highlights and clip reels, which you can always, tart up to make it look what something it isn't. But he looks incredibly strong. He's 6'3", right-footed, 21 years old, as we've said. 19 games this year in Syria. Clearances completed. Oh, there you got it on the screen. It's all the stats there for people to see. It seems to me the heading ability from set pieces and his physicality is going to be a massive, massive plus for us. Scoring from corners. He's good at one-on-ones and his duels. His long passing ability is very good. Just like to read your report from at BTLVID. They say him as a scouting report, a physical beast of a centre-back. He is a commanding presence at the back who fights for his team, a player who is a leader at the back for Genoa and Romania. He is a warrior who will put his body on the line to protect the goal. Drăgușin is a defender who dominates his box, cleans up danger and wins the majority of his aerial duels. He takes ownership of the box to protect it. And that's all you can ask. I mean, that is a pretty glowing report without any bias there. So, yeah, I can't wait to see him on the pitch and in the Tottenham shirt, because, again, for me, this looks like a cracking deal.
Craig, Josh mentioned there that he'd be surprised whether he'd play against Manchester United. With with Romero coming back from injury, Van der Ven just coming back from injury, surely you've got to start Drăgușin in this game against Manchester United and perhaps even start Werner or give him a serious amount of minutes on Sunday.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me to see Werner start. It's a difficult one with Drăgușin. We don't know, as much as Romero says he wants to play. Obviously, that's going to be a decision with the club doctors. If they think there's any risk to that hamstring, was it hamstring Romero had? I think any risk on that at all, then they're not gonna risk him. So I think it's 50-50 whether he starts or not. I think that it's quite obvious Van der Ven's going to start. I think, and then it's either one of Romero or Drăgușin. How do you pronounce it? Is it Drăgușin or Drăgușin? I don't even know. Anybody know? No Romanians in the chat.
I heard it's a completely different pronunciation to that.
Oh, yeah. Like Smith, something like that.
we never get a John Smith in, do we?
No, we don't. No. It's, somebody in the chat, if anybody's Romanian or knows, perhaps Melvin knows. I noticed Melvin was in the chat. He follows Italian football. He may well know how to pronounce it. Phonetically spell it out. That'd be helpful.
It's more like Drăgușin, apparently. It's a sh sound.
Oh, like Mr. Sheen, Drăgușin. Yeah, right, okay, fair enough.
Apparently it's a bit more like that. I might have completely butchered it, but it's a shirt. It's a shin. instead of.
Jeez, I might start calling Mr. Sheen if he comes in and Dyer goes. What's the logo bang and the dirt is gone, isn't it?
As long as he can clean up at the back.
he'd be able to polish things up, wouldn't he? Yeah. I think
Here we go.
The best thing, talking about his name, there was a really good song going around on Spurs song sheets. I did send James Black my lyrics to it, which I'm not going to sing, but the song they're trying to get from is Drăgușin, the Boney M classic. I thought that was very clever. Getting back to the question, I don't know. I think it just depends purely on Romero and his fitness and how good they think he is. Would he get a run out? I think it's depends how long. If Romero starts, they think he's only got an hour in him. Do you swap centre backs during the game? Bit dodgy perhaps to do that because they like to keep the same back four. So we'll see. I don't know. I think it purely hinges on Romero's fitness.
Dave, let's come to you. Radu Drăgușin seems to be a very mature 21-year-old, and he has been bigged up by lots of journalists around Europe about his professionalism. As a Spurs fan, are you delighted with this signing? Because I'm sure Ange Postecoglou is absolutely delighted because that is certainly an area where he wanted to strengthen in this window. And it just, I know we've said it already, but whatever Ange seems to want at the moment and what is on his wanted list, he seems to get. And this is great to see as Spurs fans.
And look, rightly so. I mean, when he's come in and turned some of the players' performances around that were here before he got here, and nearly every player he's signed has hit the ground running and made a massive impact at this football club. Rightly so, he should be getting what he's asking for. When it comes to Mr. Sheen, I really like the signing. I think there's a lot of positives about it. Centre back, as you know, Chris, is a position I've been banging on about for years, and I've always said unless you tighten that up, forget about winning any trophies. You have to have a watertight defence. Look, I hope not buying the centre back in the summer hasn't already come back to cost us in terms of points lost and stuff like that. But I'm glad that we finally have resolved that issue. And I'd argue we don't need to go again. You've got Philip Storrington there. If you progress them nicely, Viskovic coming in, you're pretty much short of that centre-back for the next decade, the next 10 years, if them younger guys can hit the ground running. But when it comes to a new signing at Tottenham, I always question myself, can he come in and give us something different to what we already have and why have we looked into him? Look, that defence, last year, it was the worst in Tottenham's history since the Premier League began. This season has started off absolutely brilliantly. First 10 games, unbeaten, I think conceded 9 goals, 4 clean sheets. Last 10 games, with the injuries, we've conceded 20 goals, we've lost 5, and we've only kept 1 clean sheet. And we know last season, right, we were at a similar stage last season where we were sitting in and around the top 4 come January. We needed a centre-back. We didn't go and do it. And we end up falling out of Europe altogether. This year, we've done it, and I think it'll be enough to be able to propel us into a Champions League, if not into a title race. Look, with Romero, he's going to get injuries. He's going to get suspensions. With Van de Ven coming back off a hamstring injury, could it end up being like Cesc Young, where he gets more injuries and the frequency of them and stuff like that? You just don't know. So this signing was absolutely crucial to bring in. We've had a massive problem at this football club from defending set pieces or just any crosses into the box in general since Jose Mourinho. Even the last few weeks, Bournemouth, Everton, pumping balls into the box, and we could not deal with it. Drăgușin gives you that option. He commands that box. He's the stats in this area about his heading ability. I think he's third highest or something like that. Aerial duels 1. Show how important he will be in that regard, helping us defend crosses into the box, helping us defend set pieces. He also gives us the option and the flexibility to mix it up. If a player is in that red zone that they like to talk about in behind the scenes, you can bring someone in who I don't think you will see such a massive drop-off in quality. Our problem in year gone by has been the massive drop-off in quality. You've had players here that are 30, late 20s, reaching their 30s that have accepted being a backup. And when they've took the pitch, you've seen that in reflection in their performances. What you've got here is a guy that looked at Bayern Munich, said, Kim Min-jae, De Ligt and Upamecano, chances I'm going to play not so high. I do fancy myself getting into that Tottenham team. That's a massive part of why he's coming here. He wants to play football. He could have took the pay packet. He didn't. He protected his own career and has gone to a club where he thinks he'll get games, which I love, and I think Ange Postecoglou will love. Ange Postecoglou is very similar to Sir Alex Ferguson in a way, where he needs to speak to the player before they come. He needs to get a vibe. He needs to get a feel. But also, with Postecoglou, he spoke about the character of a player. It's very, very important to Postecoglou. And Drăgușin has that character. From all the research they would have done, the people who would have been ringing up in the background, they would have got good character references. But also, he's from good stock. Both of his parents represented Romania at international level in their sort of sport. So that tells you that he lives the life of an athlete. He's going to be sound living off the pitch. He's not going to cause you any problems. He's going to gear himself right up for match days. For me, I think it was a no-brainer. It's been long overdue. I'd argue we shouldn't be sitting here this January clapping that we've got it. It should have been done last summer or the January before that. But look, it's done. It's over the line. We've got a bit of strength and depth in that position, and I think he'll surprise many. When I look at him, I think he's a good cross between Romero and Van der Ven. And what I mean by that is he's got the positioning and he covers the back line like Van der Ven, moves like Van der Ven, is as tall as Van der Ven. But out of possession, instead of letting a player take the ball in, look around at the crowd, applaud them, take the ball down, play others into play, he, like Romero, likes to get in straight in up behind them, aggressive, look to dislodge that ball so that they can't get the ball down and bring people into play. I think we've got a very good signing on our hands. And as Mr. Sheen says, bang, and the dirt is gone. And that's exactly what he's going to do.
Well,
Chris, I was trying to be clever there and getting a prop while Dave was talking, and I suddenly realised that we actually buy Pledge and not Mr. Sheen. So I'm going to have a word with the missus. Bloody Pledge, seriously.
Craig trying to be clever there. No, but as I say, players don't get past him, and I think it's a very, very exciting signing. But as part of the deal, Josh, let's come to you. Jed Spence, what an interesting deal. And again, I use the term clever business from Tottenham Hotspur Football Club because, of course, this is a player that we need to probably let go because I don't think he's going to get a chance under Ange Postecoglou. He's had problems at Leeds United. Daniel Farke, with his comments in the last couple of days about his unprofessionalism. He's now gone on loan to Genoa, gone in the other direction. They have an option to buy him at 10 million euros. Of course, a lot needs to happen before that happens, of them actually giving us the £10 million and activating that deal. But what do you make of the Jed Spence departure?
It's all a little bit weird, isn't it? I mean, we've seen Japhet Tanganga go to Augsburg and fail to play at all. So with a combination of things going on, and, my fear is that, is this going to be beneficial to Jed Spence's career? You'd hope so. But in reality, will it be? I have no idea. All I hope, and one thing I haven't checked, and I probably should know this, is whether the Jed Spence, the completion of that deal hinges on anything, or whether we can complete the deal. Because my biggest fear is that, okay, Jed Spence turns up, decides he would rather, chain himself to the doors of the airport than join, and it stops anything from happening. I don't think that would be the case. But
it was interesting, Josh, because it was reported this morning that Jed Spence was very reluctant about moving, and then all of a sudden it was Spurs are now paying his full wages, and there is an option.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. We've seen Mika Richards go to Serie A. Joe Hart played in Serie A. It's happened. I mean, Smalling has completely transformed, I think, his career at Roma. Tammy Abraham, before his knee injury, was doing a fantastic job at Roma as well. Loftus-Cheek has gone there, So I don't think actually going to Italy is the thing that's weird about this. But what it is the fact that this is a guy that was so poor. He was so poor in terms of his attitude and the way that he was conducting himself, that Daniel Farke, had a very, very, very damning assessment of him. And, I just think, we've just got to wait and see. I still hope that he can turn his career around as he's still young, but it's one of those that could easily become you just have to just keep loaning him out and hope that something goes well enough that you can get him off the books, because it's clearly something that's not worked. Ange Postecoglou was very, very quick in the summer to not want him to be part of his plans. He was very quick again once this happened with Leeds to get him out. He wants him nowhere near his team. That says it all as far as I'm concerned. And if Ange Postecoglou wants nothing to do with him, then I don't think as Spurs fans we should want anything to do with him either. You know, it's just a shame because what a player he was at Nottingham Forest. But for him to fall out with now, I think 4 of his last 5 managers, there's a pattern repeating itself here. And you know, there's no doubting the attributes that he possesses and what he can do if he applies himself. But I see this quite similarly to the loan that he had at Stade Rennais in France, and it will be one of those that were left with him in the summer and hoping to move him on again.
Another player who, of course, is still on Tottenham's books is Tonguion Ndombele. Reports in Turkey today have stated that Fenerbahce want to keep him. Galatasaray want to keep him, and he wants to stay in Turkey, which is good news. But I don't know what's going to happen again at the end of the season. Again, good business by Tottenham to release Hugo Lloris to Los Angeles. Josh Keeley has gone on loan to Barnet. Matt Craig has just gone on loan to Doncaster. It'd be interesting to see whether the Eric Dyer deal does get done to Bayern Munich. There has been reports of interest from Feyenoord and from Fiorentina for Brian Hill, but apparently he is happy at the football club right now. Spurs actively want to sell Sergio Reguilon, so that's going to be an interesting one. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg could be out the door as well if Spurs do get a midfielder in. And of course, exciting times ahead because James Maddison is not that far away from coming back in the Tottenham Hotspur starting 11. Mickey van der Ven is expected to either start or feature in the game at Manchester United on Sunday. Romero's not that far away either. Solomon's not that far away either, which, you know, is looking good. The squad is looking or going to be looking strong in the next couple of weeks. Last question for you all. Josh, let's start with you. Now, 1 signing confirmed, 1 just about to be confirmed. So let's say 2. What would be the perfect window for you? Bring in a midfielder and everything's great? Is that how you look at it?
I think, to be fair, if the window ended tomorrow or the window ends and we don't sign anyone, I think we've had a very, very good window because the 2 biggest issues that we had was we needed more firepower up top and we needed a centre-back desperately. I think that was actually a failure of the summer window, was to not bring in those players in the summer, because we've sold our best striker of a generation, possibly ever. And we've sold, you know, and clearly defence wasn't good enough. I think to the cherry on top, and I think that's the best way of putting it, really, to use a cliche, is getting that midfielder in. And I know that Spurs are looking particularly at young midfielders. I know two players that Tottenham are looking at the minute are Adam Wharton, the Blackburn midfielder, 19 years old. I think he's played 24 games this season, of which he has, I think, a goal and 3 assists, if I can remember correctly. And the other one is, which I think will be popular amongst Spurs fans, given what happened last night, Hayden Hackney, the Middlesbrough goal scorer against Chelsea, that has half put them out of the cup. Let's hope that they can produce again. He's played over 20 games and he scored a couple of goals as well. But the reason why you think, okay, there's not that many goals there, is because these are proper number 6s. These are proper out and out defensive midfielders. Essentially, I think we're in a position where, you know, Basuma might move around. Bentancur, if he's fit, is going to be the 6. But with the kind of injuries, suspensions, kind of everything, I think, you know, we're looking at bringing in someone that's young, that, you know, might not play a lot now. I can see us doing a deal where we take one of these, for example, and loan them back for the rest of the season. But then in the summer, what that probably means is the likes of Højbjerg or Skip may move on. I think that's the cherry on top. I don't think it's a make or break at all, but I think it would be just perfect to get that one kind of midfielder in. I don't think we're going to get a winger in now. Having got Werner playing across the front 3, I just don't really see it now. So yeah, one of those, it'd be good to see that. But yeah, I still think this is probably a 9 out of 10 window, irrespective of what we do next.
Josh, I know you mentioned that word exciting. I've probably said exciting a fair few times on this stream so far this evening, but it does feel extremely exciting for the future of the football club, not just for this season, not even just for next, but for further seasons ahead. Because, I think some people sometimes forget how young the likes of Papamata Sarr and Udogi, and of course now Drăgușin coming in. Young players. This is going to be a very young, exciting team. And I've said this in the last couple of days as well, many times, that any neutral fan, everyone is wanting to watch Spurs at the moment because of our style, the way that we play, and the way that Ange sets us up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just a great time to be involved in any way or have your heart attached to Spurs in any way. And I know people that don't support Spurs and actually support the other side of London, the two sides of London the three sides of London even, that I won't name because I don't think they deserve it. Supporters of those clubs that say actively, I hate to admit it, but I really enjoy watching Spurs because it's just always entertainment no matter what happens. And I think one thing that we can take from this window, we can take from the Drăgușin deal, we can take from kind of everything and the direction that we're going in, because it's not just Drăgușin where this has happened. The same thing, Udogi is another example where some of the biggest clubs in the world were after him and we got that deal done. I think it puts us in a great position, if we can continue how we've done, and I think Champions League is going to be really important. I think if we get someone's just put in the comments about Vuskovic as well, who joins in 2025, one of the most exciting young defenders in the world. Still only 16. I mean, it's just crazy. What this does, I think if we get Champions League, I genuinely think Spurs can kind of sign whoever they want to sign. And I mean that when I say that. I think obviously there's a certain level of player that we're not going to go for. We're not going to spend 150 million on, certain players. But I think if Spurs wanted to go for, say, a Joby Bellingham, for example, at Sunderland, who, you've got the likes of Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund, Real Madrid, Manchester City, Liverpool, these types of clubs, all interested, all monitoring him. Every single good club in the world is looking at this guy because they've seen what's happened to his older brother. I think it puts Spurs in a great position that we can get these types of deals. Arthur Vermeeren from Royal Antwerp's another player that Tottenham are looking at, another 18-year-old. He's a player that's attracted the likes of Dortmund and Bayern and AC Milan and Juventus. So, what this does is it basically creates an environment of which who wouldn't want to be part of this? And I don't think we can really, even during the best days under Poch, I don't think we can ever say we've had that. Certainly not in my lifetime, where it doesn't matter who you go for. You think the chances are you could get them, because why wouldn't you want to join what's happening? And, this is only year one into the project. I think this is the thing that's just so baffling, all of it, and crazy, is this is year one. This is not even this is half a year into the project. This is 6 months into the project. And we're already talking about it like this. I mean, it's just ridiculous, really. So, it's just super exciting. I think exciting is the right word.
I've got to say, doing the podcast in the last 6 months have been like a breath of fresh air. Everyone's smiling, everyone talking about positive things. And as I keep saying, time and time again, since Ange Postecoglou has arrived, things improve on and off the pitch on a weekly basis, which is absolutely fantastic to see. Craig, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts on the transfer window overall so far. And to make it a perfect window, a 10 out of 10, what else does Spurs need to do, in your opinion, ins and outs?
To be honest, it's up there already, like Josh said. But I think to make it a 10 out of 10, if we can just get a midfielder in, somebody Ange wants, then I think you've got to say that's a 10 out of 10 for January. Personally, I've got no interest in taking Conor Gallagher from Chelsea. I know there's still rumours out there. Josh might know a bit more about that than me, but I can't see us taking Chelsea's captain, and personally, I wouldn't want him anyway. But yeah, there's other players out there. I think we'll wait till the end of the window and see if a deal comes up. I don't think we'll get one in the next week or so, next 2 weeks even. But as we've said, all chat, it's quite clear that they're backing Ange. They've listened to him. He said at Christmas that cherry on top, he wants Santa to come early in the window, and he has. And we've got 2 players through the door before our next Premier League game. So I think it can only be a 10 if we get one more player in, whether that be a loan or, like you say, loan back. I think we're going to have, in 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to have a fair few centre midfielders. Pat Matasar, like you said, you got Bissouma, you've got Bentancur that can play there. So there's only 3 berths in there. If you discount the Maddison role in the number 10 role, if you like, there's only 2 places. So, we got a fair few there. And is Højbjerg, Skip, one of them for me has to go, possibly this window, but you might find Højbjerg stays around. I know Skip probably won't want to go, but perhaps they look for a loan for him, perhaps. I don't know. But look, it's all good at the moment. It's all good. I think we get to a point where, and I'd love to come on here and say that when you ask me what our strongest 11 is, to be in a position to say, Chris, I don't know what our strongest 11 is, because we've got strength all over the board. And that would be great, because the last few years we have had, as we've said, a strongest 11, and things tend to drop when you change players. So, yeah, for me, having a strong squad like a City, when you drop a Grealish, you bring in a Foden. It's that kind of thing, and they're glut of centre backs and the centre midfielders. It's just an embarrassment of riches they've got, and it would be great for us to get into a similar position, and that's what Ange's building. So, yeah,
doesn't that make it even more exciting though, Craig? The fact that Postecoglou has not had every single player fit and available for any games this season. And when you think of all those players coming back, suspensions, injuries, Asian Cup, AFCON, when all those players are fit and available in that squad looks extremely strong, doesn't it?
It does. And you've got to bear in mind, I think I'm right in saying this, Maddison, Bentancur and Bissouma haven't played a game together yet. That is a hell of a midfield there, isn't it? So, yeah, pretty much, Chris. It's strong. It's strong. So long may that continue. Let's hope we can keep players fit as well.
Dave, before we come to you, I just want to know what Josh is laughing at. All these comments coming in.
Someone has spotted that, Chris, you look a little bit like Pochettino, and I see it, to be fair. And now the whole chat has realised that you look a bit like Poch. And it's just quite funny seeing these comments.
That's old news.
That's old news, Josh. If I had £1 for every single time someone said that to me, I went up to Pochettino once and said, everyone thinks I look like you. What do you think? And he said, you're a very lucky man. So I took that. So that's fine. That's fine. No, Pochettino, we don't talk about him anymore on this channel. So I ignore all those comments now. Thank you. Dave, let's come to you. Your perfect window. What's going to be? What's left to do for Spurs? Ins and outs.
No, I think we've made a very good start to the window, and I hope we capitalise on it. I think another centre midfielder, and I'll be very, very happy with this window. Centre back, striker, or someone that can play all across the front line. I just think I would like that extra centre midfielder. One thing I think we're missing is someone that offers us what Papa Matasar offers us in terms of the way he just does no ego about him. He gets in and he does all that dog work, turn over the ball, chase players down, harass. I don't think we've got someone else like him, so I would like to see us maybe sign someone that can compete with him for that position. But for me, a centre midfielder, I think we'll have a good window. Now, look, anything over that is an absolute bonus. What I would say to people is, I know we've signed 2 already, but don't expect Spurs to come out of this window with 5, 6 signings. It's never going to happen in January. It's unrealistic. I think 3, I think you're talking about probably the right amount. Strengthen your areas right through the spine of the team, and I think you'll be good. And look, what I love most about it is as well, just quickly, because I know, Chris, you love a positive. I'm going to get you even more excited. With the way we've done our business and the players that we've signed, like we've closed the gap on Arsenal, and they've spent triple the amount of money on their project than what we have. But the most crucial part and the most important part is They have no wiggle room to maneuver now with fair play. They have to sell before they can buy. We can still spend, I think, another 200-300 million before we're even close to it. So now that even if we do get close to a title challenge this season, next season we can push on and really go for it in the summer transfer window. Whereas other clubs can't. They have to do a bit of wheeling and dealing, so it slows down their process, which means any player that we're in competition with them for, we should be able to move quickest because we can bring them in straight away. So with the way we've done this rebuild, it puts us in a really exciting position. And then let's see whether we capitalize on it or not.
Well,
sorry, Dave. I'm not laughing at you. I was just laughing at somebody in the comments. Somebody thinks you look like Joey off Friends, Chris.
I'll take that. I'll take that. I tell you, we do get some funny old comments here. Chris looks happy. Potts looks sad now. Lol. What a great way to end the podcast.
Brilliant.
Dave, thanks so much for joining us this evening. Where can people find you and your wonderful work and your YouTube channel?
Yeah, look, if you like what I have to say, sometime get over and check me out at the Irish Hotspur. If not, I'll see you again there soon on this channel. Thanks for having me, Chris. And the time with you, Craig and Josh. Thank you.
Dave, thanks so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you this evening. And Craig, thanks so much. And where can people find you?
Yeah, on X at Demon9. Been a really good one tonight, I think. Everybody seems very upbeat at the moment. The whole fan base, well, most of them. Some of them will never be happy. But yeah, it's really good. Long may it continue.
How can people not be happy right now? Come on. This club is going places. This club is going places.
Some of them will hate it when we win something. I swear to God, when you see some of the people on Twitter, honestly, toxic, that place.
Just go there, post, come away. Go there, post, come away. Josh, what's funny?
Someone said that I look like Mark Almond, which is a massive insult. I didn't know who that was. I just Googled it. Thanks.
Oh my God. No.
Someone's also called you Chris Poster Cowlin. That's a good name. I like that.
I'll take that. I've been called a lot worse, especially this last week. Josh, thanks so much for joining us again. I won't ask where people can find you because it'll be here from now until the end of the window. But no, where can people find you?
At Josh Hughes TV on X. Yeah, on Twitter Spaces quite a lot, on here now quite a lot, and yeah, be here quite a lot during January. Probably not so many signings now, but still good things to talk about nonetheless.
I think there's a lot more to come from this January transfer window. I really do. These next few weeks, Ange is making Tottenham Hotspur go in places, and hopefully the trophies will be coming in the near future. But a very, very positive podcast. I've absolutely loved being on with Dave, Josh and Craig this evening. I cannot thank you all enough for tuning in and listening to this podcast on a regular basis. Over 1,500 people watching this live on YouTube this evening. So thanks so much for all of your support. And incredibly, in the last 48 hours, nearly 500,000 views on YouTube. Simply incredible. So thank you so much indeed for all of your support. We will be back tomorrow for another edition of the Spurs Chat Podcast. Hopefully we'll see you there. And until then, come on you Spurs. Keep smiling.